adjustable rate mortgage hit 7.98%, up more than, that's a fixed rate mortgage, up more than 0.1 percentage point, and a one-year adjustable coming in a lot less, just under 5.5%. And that's all the business news for now. I'm Terry Keenan in New York. Inside Politics is up next.
And I want to urge the House to pass the rule and the bill and do it today.
President Clinton turns up the heat on the House, where the crime bill is facing a survival test. And we throw out this question to some political players. Should the Clinton administration intervene in the approaching baseball strike? It's all part of Inside Politics.
This is Inside Politics with Bernard Shaw and Judy Woodruff in Washington.
Thanks for joining us. Judy is getting a break after occupying this chair for most of the day. In a political year where Democrats are in search of an issue to help them hold control of Congress, many within the party and the White House thought the proposed crime bill would be that salvation. But there are indications that dreams of a crime bill could be just that, a dream. Joining us from the Hill with the latest on the political arm twisting and maneuvering, our national correspondent, Gene Randall. Gene?
Bernie, after delaying things for a while to line up last-minute support, the House Democratic leadership a short time ago finally gave the go-ahead for a procedural debate to bring the House-Senate conference bill on crime to the floor. According to the bill's sponsors, a win on the procedural question means they'll have the votes for final passage. Debate is sharp.
It's weaker on crime. It's weaker on sexual predators. It cuts the FBI. It cuts the Drug Enforcement Administration. Vote no on the rule. Send it back to conference and insist that they write an honest bill out in the open where everybody can see it.
If you want to do what our constituents are pleading with us to do, which is make the streets safe, tough laws on punishment, smart laws on prevention, you will vote for this rule, because we cannot hide behind any procedural smokescreen. If you vote down this rule, there will be no crime bill, and the American people will suffer.
White House Chief of Staff Leon Panetta has been here lobbying for votes. Asked how he intended to do it, Panetta said, quote, "We're going to kick a little ass up there." President Clinton, meanwhile, was expressing confidence the crime bill would pass. And Attorney General Janet Reno was doing her bit.
There's no doubt in my mind that this crime bill will produce less crime than we would otherwise have if we don't have this crime bill, and significantly less crime.
At stake in the bill, funds for 100,000 new police officers across the country, $8 billion for new prisons, $7.5 billion for crime prevention, 3 strikes and you're out sentencing, expanded federal death penalties, and a ban on 19 types of assault weapons. Is there Republican anxiety about President Clinton getting this bill? All 38 GOP House members who voted for the assault weapons ban in May have gotten some material from the Republican National Committee. Copies of an Alaska Party resolution recommending that all 38 be denied any RNC help in any re-election campaign. An RNC spokesman told us there was no implied threat. Democrats say it was just that, an attempt to undercut crime bill support among Republicans intending to vote for it. A short time ago at the White House, President Clinton, too, was talking about the crime bill.
The choice is still the same. Are we going to put 100,000 more police officers on the street? Are we going to ban assault weapons? Are we going to ban ownership of handguns by minors? Are we going to make our schools safer? Are we going to give our young people something to say yes to, even as we make punishment stiffer and build more prisons? The average violent criminal goes free in 4 years. This crime bill has been taking shape and has been up to the gate and thwarted for 6 years. There is something wrong with our national institutions when we can't do that. And I want to urge the House to pass the rule and the bill and do it today.
And so once again, debate on the rule is going on the House floor at this hour. It must be approved if the bill itself is to be voted on. Bernie?
How much, Gene, is this for the Democrats a big package of political dynamite, where the president's pollster, Stan Greenberg, has told Democrats who are out there running for their lives that they campaign on tough crime, positions. 3 strikes are out. This plays very well with the electorate. What happens if this fails?
It is very important for the Democrats from the president on down. It is a very important political package. They all need to be able to point to this when they go home, in their view.
Gene Randall, live from the Hill. Thank you. On the health care reform beat, Senate debate kept plodding along today, while in the House there was a new stab at bipartisan compromise and a sign Democratic leaders may be getting cold feet about where the Senate is heading. CNN's Candy Crowley is following all the action on the Hill.
Just when you thought it was safe to turn on your television set, along comes another health care plan.
Those of you that have followed health care reform, particularly the bipartisan attempts, knows this has kind of been the Bermuda Triangle of policymaking. A lot of people go in, but not many people come out.
Sponsored by a team of House Democrats and Republicans, this plan promises health insurance for 90% of Americans through health insurance and malpractice reform and free market incentives. Its appeal, however, may be for what it doesn't have.
There are no mandates, no price controls, no alliances, and no taxes.
The same cannot be said for the Mitchell bill, which continues to be pummeled on the Senate side.
They referred to it as the war and peace of health care legislation. It isn't war and peace. They got the wrong medium. The medium's film. This is lethal weapon 1. This is lethal weapon 2. And apparently we're about to have lethal weapon 3, and we don't know what's in it. Well, if that's the way we're going to legislate, I'm going to try to be the Terminator.
Worse, some of the harshest pounding comes from within. A2, Senator Cole?
Third, people don't want new bureaucracies, unnecessary programs, and entitlements targeted toward special interests. We fool ourselves if we believe the American people want us to create scores of new and expensive programs. This legislation is an historic opportunity to bring affordable and stable health insurance to all Americans. It should not become a Trojan horse, hiding pet programs, bits of legislative pork, or unnecessary new entitlements.
Outcharted and outgraphed in the early hours, by day 3, Democrats fired up.
If the Dole bill passes, millions of Americans are just out of luck. If you're uninsured, if you lose your job, if you are a senior citizen, if you're a business paying insurance, if you're a small business, if you're a taxpayer, we're just getting started.
We also ought to think about what the costs are in terms of families, working families, that suddenly lose their job and lose the coverage when they have children that have special needs. They can't afford a pair of glasses when their children go to school. And we provide glass care and some dental care in this program. And those children are reading the charts and are slow in learning. What's the cost of that?
Senate debate thus far has been merely prologue, a time for senators to get out and stake out their territory on health care reform. Any kind of actual activity to change and amend the Mitchell bill probably won't begin until next week. In the meantime, there's an even bigger problem over on the House side, which can best be described as in a state of flux. House leaders are gathering today with representatives of the White House to decide what to do about the fact that at the moment they're not quite prepared to go to health care debate, which they'd planned to go to next Monday. There's several options before the House. One of them is to stay in session and take care of other business while they await the numbers from the CBO so they can get on with health care reform. In any case, it looks like that original date for the House to vote on health care reform on the 19th is now pretty much gone. Candy Crowley, CNN Live, Capitol Hill.
Thank you, Candy. When it comes to talk of health care compromise, the Clinton administration's stand today seems to depend on who's doing the talking. Our senior White House correspondent, Wolf Blitzer, has been trying to sort through the confusion. Wolf?
Bernie, President Clinton and his aides are sending more mixed signals about how far they're willing to go in compromising on health care reform. In the face of pressure from liberal Democrats who don't want any more concessions, the president told the New York Times the Mitchell plan in the Senate and its 95% coverage are his bottom line. Everybody sat around here breaking their brains over what other alternatives were available. None emerged before he put his bill in. I can't imagine. I just don't know what other alternatives there are. But that probably means no compromise with moderate Republicans and even some Democrats like Oklahoma's David Boren. He blasted First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton for saying that a bare 51-vote Democratic majority would be good enough for her.
And if we ram a bill through this Congress, and I hope my colleagues will hear me, I pray that they will hear me. I plead with them to hear me, because we've got to stop this train right now and get off and go back to the drawing boards and start on the basis of trying to get something done together.
In New York, Mrs. Clinton continued stumping for health care and the crime bill.
We need to hold people accountable so that if their rhetoric outpaces results, they know we're watching. We need to solve problems, not just talk about them.
In contrast, Vice President Al Gore, in his radio interviews, reached out to moderate Republicans.
We're very grateful for the kind of approach that Senator Chafee, a Republican from Rhode Island, is taking, just to cite one example.
But even Chafee says he can't support anything close to the Mitchell plan.
But when you look closely to it, into the Mitchell bill, there are really a lot of problems there, and I hope we can straighten them out.
As a result, though, administration officials are quickly coming to the conclusion that some sort of serious bipartisan consensus is quickly disappearing. Wolf Blitzer, CNN, reporting live from the White House.
Thank you, Wolf. Well, it seems inevitable at this point. Coming up on Inside Politics, the baseball strike. We'll examine whether the president should get involved in the labor dispute involving America's pastime. Here's what some fans have to say.
I don't think so. I think it's up to the owners and the players and the managers.
Absolutely not. He's screwing up the government as it is.
He's probably know the resources that it takes to settle it, maybe, or negotiate it.
He could talk to the baseball players more and try to settle this strike thing before it even happens. You come here, we pay $12 to get a seat, and then the players are getting paid millions of dollars, and they're going to go on strike. It's not right. Clinton should do something about it.
I think he has other business to take care of. Baseball's another story.
Is your credit report holding you back from refinancing your home? Hi, I'm Jim Palmer. Well, if it is, call the Money Store. At the Money Store, they'll treat you like an individual and look at your total credit history, not just today's credit report. You can apply entirely by phone at the Money Store, and there's never an application fee. So don't let your credit report stop you from refinancing your first mortgage. Call 1-800-LOAN-YES, the Money Store, where America goes for money.
This may take a little getting used to. The sky, the wind, the air. Not a shred of guilt for miles. The new Saab 900. More sensible than a convertible has a right to be.
Sleep deprivation. 70 million Americans have experienced it, but you don't have to. Introducing Sleep and All Soft Gels with the sleep aid preferred by 7 out of 10 doctors. New Sleep and All Soft Gels help you fall asleep fast.
Imagine a breeze. Introducing cranberry. It gets inside you in a whole new light. Crystal Light. Smooth and fresh and juicy. Imagine a breeze. New Crystal Light Cranberry Breeze.
Tonight in the Crossfire, the best of times, the worst of times. The 60s bred a controversial political culture, but did America learn some important lessons? A look back. Buchanan, Kinsley, Crossfire, tonight 7:30 Eastern on CNN.
Is the gray in your mustache or beard making you look too old? Now there's Just for Men Brush-In Color Gel, specially for the hard-to-color hair of mustaches and beards. This brush-in gel stays put to penetrate hard-to-color hair. In 5 minutes, rinse. Your mustache or beard blends with your natural hair color, and it won't fade or wash out.
Now, that's a lot better.
Just for Men Color Gel, from the leader in men's hair coloring.
How'd you like to buy a car with some serious attitude? Don't need to. This new Achieva Sport Coupe is very reasonable. No, really. And with a hot V6 engine and 4-wheel anti-lock brakes, It's got all the attitude you need, and then some. Yeah, especially when you can afford it. It's your money.
Boss, meet Larry. He's new.
Say, Larry, hypothetical question. How would you send a big, important shipment to a big, important client in, say, Hong Kong?
FedEx?
Right. Say someone didn't use FedEx, and that big, important shipment never got there. What would you call that someone, Larry?
Dope.
Right. Dope.
Big or small around the world, next time use FedEx.
If I would have known you were the dope, I wouldn't.
I'm so in love, I'm weak in the knees for new kibbles and bits, bacon and cheese.
Oh, I'm weak in the knees for new kibbles and bits, bacon cheese.
Nice!
At last, the taste of bacon and cheese together in new kibbles and bits, bacon cheese.
Whew, he falls hard.
Sleep deprivation. 70 million Americans have experienced it, but you don't have to. Introducing Sleep and All Soft Gels with the sleep aid preferred by 7 out of 10 doctors. New Sleep and All Soft Gels help you fall asleep fast.
Well, 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 if indeed things proceed as expected, millions of fans across the country will be without the national pastime beginning tomorrow. So the question is there anything the president and the administration can do to avert this upcoming baseball strike? Well, earlier today, Mr. Clinton offered to get involved and he made a plea to both sides.
The only thing I'd like to say to both sides is that there are a lot of little kids out there who want to see this season come to a close. And there are a lot of not-so-little kids out there who know that this is the most exciting baseball season in 40 years. And I hope that in the days ahead, they will search for a way to get back together, finish this season, extend it by a few days so that all the games can be played, and the feelings of the American people that this could be one of those seasons that occurs once every 4 or 5 decades could be vindicated.
And a new CNN USA Today Gallup poll this week shows Americans would prefer the president to stay out of baseball's labor dispute by nearly 3 to 1. To discuss the politics of this pending baseball standoff, Senator Howard Metzenbaum of Ohio, who today drafted legislation that would prevent baseball owners from unilaterally imposing a salary cap on the players. By the way, this senator's favorite team, the Cleveland Indians, are making a major run in the American League Central Division this year. Congressman Jim Bunning of Kentucky, who's also a former major leaguer, he pitched 2 no-hitters, one in 1958, one in 64. He's one of the founders of the Major League Players Association. And Detroit News and USA Today columnist Tony Snow, who's hoping his Cincinnati Reds can hold on to their slim half-game lead in the National League Central before the strike begins. Congressman Bunning, should the president leave the on-deck circle and step into this battle?
Gosh, I hope not, Bernie, because he has no business in that circle.
Senator Metzenbaum, what say you?
Well, I say that I understand the president wanting to keep baseball playing. We here in the Senate, Senator Hatch and myself, he, individual who has come from a different party than I do and has a different political philosophy than I do, he and I introduced legislation today which we hope might convince both the players and the owners to continue the season while their issue gets resolved. And if they don't, the antitrust exemption that the owners have they would be deprived of that promptly.
Tony Snow, what about the politics of a president stepping into a battle between the players and the owners at a time when he is preoccupied with crime, with health care legislation, et cetera, et cetera?
Bernie, you just stole my line. I mean, the president right now is fighting for a crime bill. He's fighting for health care. He's worried about Haiti. He's dealing with Bosnia. He's thinking about Rwanda. The last thing he wants to do is to get involved with America's pastime. Passions run high. The president ought just to be a fan in this case and not a negotiator.
But the fans look to the president for leadership. What about that, Jim Bunning?
Well, I understand them looking to him for leadership, but there are laws on the books right now. There are laws that need to be changed that the Player Association have asked to be changed, particularly the exemption of the Sherman antitrust for Major League Baseball. Those things, if they were in place right now, we wouldn't have this impasse that looks like is occurring in the negotiations.
Are you fearful that a presidential hand might, pardon the expression, muck up things?
To say the least, if Robert Reich is the negotiator or the arbitrator, I know one thing, Major League Baseball would probably shut down for the next 10 years.
Tony Snow, you're laughing.
Well, you know, the whole prospect of the administration getting involved in this is just preposterous. It's the nation's pastime. It's a game. Let the people who deal with the game deal with it. Again, people expect the president to throw out the first ball. They don't expect him to be the person who governs baseball throughout the year. Bill Clinton has enough problems to deal with, and I really would not want to visit this kind of horror upon any administration. People take baseball too seriously. Let them deal with it. Let me also say it's kind of interesting because we've got the one issue on which Jim Bunning, Tony Snow, and Howard Metzenbaum are going to agree, which is the antitrust exemption has got to go.
Howard Metzenbaum, Richard Nixon as president got involved in '72. You wouldn't urge your party leader to step up to the plate?
Well, I don't think that he needs to do that. I think he can indicate his concern. I think that's what he's been doing. I think his Secretary of Labor has indicated his concern, willingness to help. But frankly speaking, I think the players and the owners have to resolve the differences themselves. Senator Hatch and I are trying to bring about legislation to give them a chance to do just that. But I think that I don't have any real concern about the president trying to keep the baseball season going, but I'm sure that he has other major priorities and has given his attention to them.
Well, assuming if any cabinet member has the president's ear, it has to be the Attorney General. What do you gentlemen think about Janet Reno saying today that she doesn't think that baseball's antitrust exemption should be examined now in the face of a strike?
Well, I think that's a good idea. I think that without any question that needs to be examined, Bernie, in the quickest manner. And I think that if Senator Metzenbaum had been successful, we would see a lot of difference in the negotiations going on presently.
I think it's significant that Senator Hatch, who voted against me in getting the bill out of committee, indicated today that he might very well consider changing his vote if management and the players don't see fit to move a little bit more rapidly in trying to get this issue resolved.
For baseball buffs, let's also point out that Connie Mack, whose great-grandfather is one of the great managers in baseball history, is also a co-sponsor of your bill.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're going to go around the horn very quickly. First to Tony Snow at first base. Will there be a strike? If so, how long?
It'll be a strike, and it'll get wrapped up the second week of September.
At second base, Senator Metzenbaum.
I'd say there'll be a strike, and it'll be resolved by next Monday.
And on the mound, Mr. Bunning.
I think there'll be a strike, and it'll be a season-ending next springtime. We'll see some baseball.
My goodness. Even Tony Snow is impressed by that prediction. Gentlemen, thanks very much for bringing us up to date on how you feel about what's going on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Inside Politics, we'll be right back.
As luxury cars get more features, they tend to get crammed with more wire, creating possible electrical problems. That's why Infiniti developed an advanced electrical system for the Q45. Like fiber optics, one wire can carry masses of information for greater reliability and more efficient controls. The choice in luxury cars is getting simpler.
Take advantage of special Infiniti lease rates, now for a limited time.
You might be confused by all the different types of pain relievers and all their claims, but your doctor isn't. They call one type NSAIDs, like aspirin, ibuprofen, and the latest pain reliever with the main ingredient, naproxen sodium. The other type, the pain reliever in Tylenol, is different from all these. An important difference between Tylenol and an NSAID brand has to do with your stomach. To varying degrees, every one of these, including the latest one with naproxen sodium, can sometimes cause the side effect of stomach irritation. Doctors know Tylenol is definitely gentler for your stomach. The choice is clear. A brand that can irritate your stomach, or Tylenol that won't. The choice is yours. Tylenol, the pain reliever hospitals use most.
Introducing Mylanta Soothing Lozenges. For the first time ever, and an acid in the form of a lozenge. For liquid relief as it dissolves in your mouth. New Mylanta Soothing Lozenges. My doctor said Mylanta.
You can project light in any direction, but unless it's focused, you can't see clearly. That's why Infiniti employed special projector beam headlights for the J30 to safely focus light where you need it. The J also has dual airbags, ABS, and seatbelt pretensioners, but you're less likely to need them if you see the light.
Take advantage of special Infinity lease rates, now for a limited time.
President Clinton says federal appeals court judge Abner Mikva's broad experience will make him a valuable member of the White House team. President Clinton formally announced Abner Mikva's appointment a short time ago as White House counsel, replacing Lloyd Cutler. Mikva is a leader of the court's liberal wing. As a former Illinois congressman, he brings political as well as legal skills to the White House. One of his more pressing duties will be to help the Clinton administration keep its head above whitewater. Mikva begins work October 1st. Cutler said all along his tenure with the Clinton administration would be brief. Health care, lots of money, millions of dollars being spent to persuade people. The big guns are lobbying hard, and here's our man, Brooks Jackson, to tell us more about it. Brooks?
Bernie, call it log rolling or call it coalition building, lawmakers are writing and rewriting their health care proposals with key interest groups very much in mind. In a major change, Senate Democratic leader George Mitchell said he may modify his proposed tax on expensive health care plans.
Well, I expect that provision will be revised.
That's a goodie that would please labor unions. Labor wants the generous health plans it bargained for to remain tax-free. It would also be a concession to anti-tax Republicans. There was also a goodie in the House bipartisan plan announced today.
We are not attempting to do and promise more than we can deliver.
The plan does promise a goodie to the American Medical Association. It would limit jury awards for pain and suffering to $250,000 in malpractice cases, something the doctors have been seeking for years. And that goodie helped deliver an AMA endorsement of the new bill. House Democratic leader Richard Gephardt tossed yet another goodie into his health care plan. To please the big automobile companies and other large corporations, Gephardt is now proposing that the government pay half the benefits the companies provide their early retirees. Sort of horse trading can be the essence of compromise if it stays within limits, or it can spin out of control and become a dangerous special interest bidding war. Bernie?
Indeed. Brooks Jackson, thanks very much. Well, that's all for this edition of Inside Politics. I'm Bernard Shaw. Thanks very much for watching. Let's go now to Lou and Natalie for a look at what's coming up next on Early Prime.
Bernie, as you've been talking about it, just ahead, Congress steps to the plate in the baseball strike, but barring a bottom-of-the-ninth rally, players are packing it in for what could be the rest of the season.
Also, health care and employer mandates. As Congress debates, we'll have a live report on a small business owner who sees things the Clinton way. Early Prime continues in 2 minutes. Join us.
Summer, your voice will be heard. Talk Back Live, an interactive town meeting, begins August 22nd on CNN.
Next week, cable takes you on a journey of inspiration. Enter the hidden world of the animal kingdom and discover the secrets of the creatures around us. You're invited to go on safari with the Discovery Channel. And if you missed it in a theater, here's your chance to live the adventure of Walt Disney Pictures' A Far Off Place on the Disney Channel.
Warner Cable. Better TV, getting better every day.
This week, Cable presents 2 hours a week of the best in contemporary music when A&E presents In Concert, and they're the hottest artists in country. And Cable's the place to see their newest videos on the Country Music Video Album Hour, only on TNN. This week, Cable is music to your ears.
Warner Cable. Better TV, getting better every day.
No matter what you're selling. No matter how much you're spending on advertising. You can't reach Houston without Warner.
Before you head outdoors, make your first stop the Weather Channel. We'll give you the most accurate and dependable forecasts for your area. So check with us for whatever outdoor activities you may have in mind in order to be prepared. Remember, the Weather Channel is weather you can always turn to.
This is CNN.
I think this is a warning to the owners that we better sit down and resolve this.
Could it take an act of Congress to sideline the baseball strike? Also,
He said that if he ever got pinned up, that he was going to eat a bullet. That's how he put it.
Held hostage by a criminal, a young girl makes a daring escape. Hello and welcome to Early Prime. I'm Natalie Allen.
I'm Lou Waters.
Here's what's happening. The Major League Baseball season could come to a halt after today. Players are prepared to strike over the owner's demand to cap team salaries. Talks between the two sides broke off yesterday, but owners reportedly are talking among themselves about ways to prevent a walkout. And 2 U.S. senators are seeking a legislative solution. Orrin Hatch and Howard Metzenbaum today introduced a bill that would let players sue owners if they impose a salary cap during a strike. Currently, owners cannot be sued because baseball is exempt from antitrust laws. The senators hope their action will bring the two sides back together today.
The teeth is, if the owners try to unilaterally impose their own terms and conditions. In other words, if you reach an impasse in collective bargaining, then they can unilaterally impose their own terms and conditions for the players. But if they do that, then the players are going to have a right to come back and sue them under the antitrust laws. And that's a good balancing factor that I think says to them, hey, neither of you are going to get the advantage.
Adjustable rate mortgage hit 7.98%, up more than, that's a fixed rate mortgage, up more than 1/10 of a percentage point, and a one-year adjustable coming in a lot less, just under 5.5%. And that's all the business news for now. I'm Terry Keenan in New York. Inside Politics is up next.
And I want to urge the House to pass the rule and the bill and do it today.
President Clinton turns up the heat on the House, where the crime bill is facing a survival test. And we throw out this question to some political players. Should the Clinton administration intervene in the approaching baseball strike? It's all part of Inside Politics.
100,000 new police officers across the country, $8 billion for new prisons, $7.5 billion for crime prevention, 3 strikes and you're out sentencing, expanded federal death penalties, and a ban on 19 types of assault weapons. Is there Republican anxiety about President Clinton getting this bill? All 38 GOP House members who voted for the assault weapons ban in May have gotten some material from the Republican National Committee. Copies of an Alaska Party resolution recommending that all 38 be denied any RNC help in any re-election campaign. An RNC spokesman told us there was no implied threat. Democrats say it was just that, an attempt to undercut crime bill support among Republicans intending to vote for it. A short time ago at the White House, President Clinton, too, was talking about the crime bill.
The choice is still the same. Are we going to put 100,000 more police officers on the street? Are we going to ban assault weapons? Are we going to ban ownership of handguns by minors? Are we going to make our schools safe?
Vote no on the rule, send it back to conference, and insist that they write an honest bill out in the open where everybody can see it.
If you want to do what our constituents are pleading with us to do, which is make the streets safe, tough laws on punishment, smart laws on prevention, you will vote for this rule, because we cannot hide behind any procedural smokescreen. If you vote down this rule, there will be no crime bill, and the American people will suffer.
White House Chief of Staff Leon Panetta has been here lobbying for votes. Asked how he intended to do it, Panetta said, quote, "We're going to kick a little ass up there." President Clinton, meanwhile, was expressing confidence the crime bill would pass. And Attorney General Janet Reno was doing her bit.
There's no doubt in my mind
that this crime bill will produce less crime than we would otherwise have if we don't have this crime bill, and significantly less crime.
At stake in the bill, funds for...
Are we going to give our young people something to say yes to, even as we make punishment stiffer and build more prisons? The average violent criminal goes free in 4 years. This crime bill has been taking shape and has been up to the gate and thwarted for 6 years. There is something wrong with our national institutions when we can't do that. And I want to urge the House to pass the rule and the bill and do it today.
And so once again, debate on the rule is going on the House floor at this hour. It must be approved if the bill itself is to be voted on. Bernie?
How much, Gene, is this for the Democrats a big package of political dynamite? We're aware that the president's pollster, Stan Greenberg, has told Democrats who are out there running for their lives that if they campaign on tough crime positions, 3 strikes you're out. This plays very well with the electorate. What happens if this fails?
It is very important.
This is Inside Politics with Bernard Shaw and Judy Woodruff in Washington.
Thanks for joining us. Judy is getting a break after occupying this chair for most of the day. In a political year where Democrats are in search of an issue to help them hold control of Congress, many within the party and the White House thought the proposed crime bill would be that salvation. But there are indications that dreams of a crime bill could be just that, a dream. Joining us from the Hill with the latest on the political arm twisting and maneuvering, our national correspondent, Gene Randall. Gene?
Bernie, after delaying things for a while to line up last-minute support, the House Democratic leadership a short time ago finally gave the go-ahead for a procedural debate to bring the House-Senate conference bill on crime to the floor. According to the bill's sponsors, a win on the procedural question means they'll have the votes for final passage. Debate is sharp.
It's weaker on crime. It's weaker on sexual predators. It cuts the FBI. It cuts the Drug Enforcement Administration.